And Perik Chaf Hey Pasuk Lamed. Okay, now begins. Oh yeah, Hashem's Torah contains everything. Here we go. Perik Chaf Hey Pasuk Lamed, which is on page 126. Okay, so yesterday we spoke about how the Esau is out hunting and running around, and we spoke about he's got no borders, no self-control, and he comes back tired. He comes in tired, 4 lines from the bottom. And Vayomer Esau el Yaakov, Hal iteni na min ha'adam hazet. The word haliteni does not mean to feed me. Haliteni means, how does the article translate? I'll tell you what it really means, and how does he translate it? Pour into me, which is it's about the best you could do on an English translation for the Hebrew word haliteni. Haliteni means you pour food down an animal's throat. Sometimes when you force feed an animal or you try to fatten an animal up. Esau says, pour some of that red stuff down my throat in a form of gluttony. Haliteni namina adam ha'adam, from that red stuff. He doesn't even call it by name. Ki ayef anochi, I'm tired. Al kain kara shmo Edom. Therefore, he named him Edom. Now, what's going on here is that this is the day that Avram Avinu has died. And the custom in Judaism is that when somebody dies, the first meal that you feed the mourners is something round, either lentils, which are little round things, or they've got a reddish color to them, or sometimes the custom nowadays is eggs, something round which represents the cycle of life. It's the cycle of life. The life goes around a cycle. The one generation comes, another generation goes, and it's the cycle of life. All right, don't start singing the tune from the Lion King now, but it's the cycle. It goes around the cycle of life, and therefore it's a red. Yaakov is cooking these red lentils because this is the day that Avram Avinu has died. Now Avram Avinu actually dies five years prematurely, because God said to Avram Avinu, "You will die in a pleasant old age," and if Avram Avinu, on the day that he died, is the day that Esau went out and started sinning. So he was supposed to live to 180, but instead he lived to 175, so he doesn't have to go through the aggravation of seeing his grandson turning into a sinner. So Avram Avinu has died. According to the Medrash, Esau had a meltdown at this point, because Esau comes in, he knows his grandfather Avram Avinu, who's the ultimate tzaddik, and he takes a look, and there's Avram Avinu has died, and Esau cannot handle the fact that a tzaddik, he's got a faith crisis. I mean, if he's so good, and he died, why should he die if he's so good? And Esau has got kind of a tunnel vision on this world, feels, this is all about this world. And then you tell him some sort of abstract concept like, well, the soul goes up and it exists for eternity in the world to come. He couldn't handle that. According to one opinion, that's what caused him to completely become a heretic and completely deny anything of value. But in the storyline, what happens over here is Yaakov's cooking these lentils. Now, Esau is an insensitive person. On a day that somebody dies, you eat because you have to survive. You eat for survival. You don't eat because you're hungry and you have an appetite. Esau's not interested in doing it. It's like fasting on Tisha B'Av. We fast. Some people, it's insensitive. Even if you have to eat on Tisha B'Av, let's say a person has a medical situation. They have to eat. They're not allowed to fast on Tisha B'Av. It's still insensitive to go out and buy yourself a falafel or something that you really enjoy. So you eat some bread, toast, crackers, something dry and boring, because you still want to try to connect up with what's going on the day. There's a certain insensitivity to eating like a glutton on a day of a fast day where everybody else is suffering. Yet Esau's not interested in any of that sensitivity. He's hungry. I want to eat. So he comes in and you notice he says, let me have some of that red stuff. Why doesn't he call it lentils? Why doesn't he call it lentils? Let me have some of that red stuff. Why does he call it lentils? Anybody? Because if he calls it lentils, that means he's acknowledging, well, lentils, red lentils I guess somebody's in mourning today. Yeah, his father is mourning. It's like his father's died. Father's mourning. He's very insensitive. Even the grandson, who's not officially, according to halacha, is not a mourner, but he's living in the house with the father who is a mourner. What are you going to go? You go fresh out now? Now you're going to go? That's so insensitive. If I call it lentils, then I'm acknowledging what's really happening. I want to pretend I don't know what's happening so that I could eat my fill. And that's why he says to Yaakov, let me have some of the red stuff, number one. And number two, pour it down my throat. Because if he feeds him normally, after the first bite, he'll know that it's lentils. Then he'll say, oh, yeah, lentils. Oh, yeah, mourning. Oh, yeah, well, all right. Yeah. But this way he could have it all poured down his throat like a $20 all-you-can-eat restaurant. They have those things, I don't know if it's $20 all you can eat. Maybe in Israel they probably have, what is it now, $50 all, whatever it is. And that there's something about that runs against it. It goes against our grain. Funny, $50 all you can eat, and you're Jewish. I'm going to get my money's worth. They're going to have to take me out horizontal. We don't do that. You should look. I like to eat as much as the next guy. But not that it's an ends in and of itself. Sometimes people starve themselves all day so they could go to one of these restaurants. In the Vilna Gaon, the Vilna Gaon actually says you could be fasting, even like Tisha B'Av, or the 17th of Tammuz, you could actually be fasting, and your entire fast is because in the back of your mind, you say, I'm actually going to enjoy this fast because tonight I'm taking no prisoners. And that's what you're really thinking about the entire fast. And the Vilna Gaon didn't even know me, and he said that. So apparently he's got us. He's got us in his sights. So here Esau says, listen, if I take the first bite, I'll know it's lentils. Then the gig is up. So you know what I'm going to do? Pour it down my throat. That way I could eat my fill, and I could claim that I never knew that there's something going on. Number one. Number two, he said the red stuff, and then his name is called Edom. Different opinions about who called him Edom. Some say that everybody called him Edom. There's red. Why is he called Edom? Because of this whole attitude towards red. Red in every society, red represents something not good. That's why there's a custom among Jewish women, don't wear red clothing. Red is a number that in Las Vegas, I've never been there, but the tables, the gambling tables, what color are they? Never red. Green. Never red. What color are they? A nice, relaxing green. Oh, I just lost $40. Yeah, here, let's throw down a few more chips. Because it's green, and there's alcohol, and I'm relaxed. Whereas if it's red, and you lose a lot of money, there could be dead croupiers all over the place. People would be taking people out, it gets you all fevered up. There's something, the color red, where did red start? What is red a symbol of? Where is the first red in history? Sam, stand up for 1 second. While you're up, can you open the door over there? Thanks. Sir, you were supposed to say yes, sir, Sam.
Yes, sir.
There we go. It was worth coming to school today. Where did red? Where's the first red in history? Red represents sin. In Adam Harishon, red is blood. There would have been no bleeding in the world ever if Adam had not sinned. There would be no bleeding in the world. Why? Because when Adam sinned, that brought death, illness, and all sorts of infirmity to the world. Had Adam not sinned, it would have been a perfect world. And nobody would get sick, nobody would be injured, there would be no blood in the world. Blood, red, is a result of the original sin. And that's why even in our world, red represents sin. And it's if you ever want to, I was once in a publishing house, so I had to pick a cover. I had to pick a color for a cover of a book. By the way, which color is the worst color you could possibly use if you want to sell a book? Anybody know?
Brown.
Close, like dark green, like real dark green. Doesn't catch anybody's attention. It's kind of depressing. If you look on a shelf, and they tested me with this in the publishing house. You look on a shelf, there's a whole line of books. The one that jumps out at you first is the red one. The red color jumps out. On any shelf, you'll see the red sticks out. Some of the red, even the little dot on those chumashim, the red sticks out. The red jumps out at you. So Esau, his whole life is jumping at things, is excitement, is being fevered up. And therefore, everybody calls him Edom. Now Yaakov says to Esau, 2 lines from the bottom, Vayomer Yaakov, Michra chayomes b'choros chali. Sell me, as of this day, your birthright. Sell your birthright, which is a strange thing. How do you sell a birthright? Who says it's something that's something that could be sold? Yet, Yaakov says, sell me your birthright. What does Yaakov want to get out of this birthright? There are different opinions what he expects to get. Whether he expects to get according to one opinion, in those days, you had, and this applies nowadays also, by the way. You have to honor your parents. You also have to honor the oldest brother. Did you know that? Do any of you have an oldest brother? Yeah. You have an older brother? You have to. You're the older brother. So you should make that known to your siblings, right? Make sure they know this halacha. When next time you're sitting at a table, you have to say a halacha at the table. I'm going to say this halacha. There's a halacha that you have to respect the older. You have to respect the firstborn. And so Yaakov wants to get that because he has some certain respect he has to have for Esau. He wants to get that. Others say this entitles him to double portion of the father's property. Others say it entitles him to the bracha, which eventually he's going to sneak away from Esau. All of that, Yaakov says, sell me your birthright. What does Esau say? V'yomer Esau, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. What good is the birthright for me? Listen, I'm a guy out in the field. I'm hunting. You never know when you're going to get jumped by a lion or something. Who knows? I could go any day now. What do I need a birthright for? Number one. Number two, Rashi brings down that Esau is talking about, what did the firstborn do until the sin of the golden calf? What was the job of the firstborn?
Sacrifice.
They saw exactly, very good. They served in the Beis Hamikdash. Now, when you're serving in the Beis Hamikdash, if you veer off of the halacha, so it's punishable. It's a severe punishment. Esau says, I'm not interested in getting involved in something that could bring about severe punishments. Here, go ahead, take my birthright. What's it worth to me? He says, I'm going to die. So what's the sale price? Theoretically, what's the sale price for the birthright, gentlemen?
A bowl of lentils.
A bowl of lentils, very good. A bowl of lentils, that's what it seems like. So look what happens. Vayomer Yaakov, Esau says, what about Vayomer Yaakov? He shavali kayom, swear. I trust you like it. Swear about Esau. Vayishavalo, vayimkor es bechorosa liYaakov. He sells his birthright to Yaakov. V'Yaakov nasan leEsav lechem. Yaakov gives him bread. Where'd the bread come into here? How did bread get into this deal? V'unizida dashim, in the lentils. And look at Esau, what he does. Vayochal, he eats. Vayesh, he drinks. Vayakam, he gets up. Vayelech, he leaves. Vayivez Esau v'savachar. Esau scorns the birthright. Rashi says he spurned the birthright. He scorned the birthright. He meant nothing to him. And it's disrespectful to the birthright. Now what happened over here? Yaakov's got a problem. You see that in halacha, if I take advantage of you in a business deal, I get you at a disadvantage. Under certain circumstances, you could come back, and even if we sign a contract, and even if we make that, I could come back and say, hey, you played foul over here. Yeah, that wasn't fair. Esau is going to come back and say, listen, I was starving, so I agreed to anything you wanted. Had I known, had I been thinking rationally, I would have never done such a thing. So what does Yaakov do? Yaakov's very sharp. The first thing Yaakov does, it says, you'll notice it's past tense. Look very carefully. You see how precise the Torah is. It says, V'Yaakov nasan leEsav. He gave. Past tense. That means, what did he give him? Lechem. He had him eat bread. Oh, you're filled up with bread now. First, you ate the bread. Once you eat the bread, now you're thinking rationally. Oh, now I'm thinking rationally. Now, you want in or are you in or you're not in? So Yaakov first gets Esau to a point where Esau is now full. You've had bread. And then he gives him the Nazira Dashim. And you notice that Yaakov does not pour it down. So I'll get to you in 1 second. He doesn't pour it down his throat because decent people don't pour food down other people's throats. You may want to guzzle it, but I'm not going to be the guzzlee or the guzzler. I'm not going to help you. It's not something that I do. You could be sitting at a table and somebody says, hey, throw me a piece of bread, will you? Well, maybe you want to have bread. I don't throw bread. I throw frisbees. I don't throw bread. And by the way, halacha, you don't throw food at the table. You don't throw food. Sometimes I've been at Shabbos tables when they're giving out. I'm not talking about a Chassidish tish. where you can throw a kugel across the room, look out, here comes the kugel. I've only been to one tish in my life. There wasn't any kugel throwing there, but my sons have gone. They said, yeah, I figured, you scoop it, put on a plate. And they said to me, no, it's untouched by human hands. Yeah, have you been there? Have you done a tish? Yeah, you should go. It's really a good experience, and then you'll tell me about it. So Yaakov, I'm pouring food down your throat. I've got a little too much dignity for that. So Yaakov feeds him. So it doesn't say halite that he poured it down his throat. He gives him bread, lentils, and Esau first vayochal. He eats. Now maybe he has some regret, but we don't see any regret. What does he do? Boom, boom, boom. I'm out of here. Vayochal, vayesht, vayokam, vayelach, vayivez, boom, 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 I'm out. Now, there's a question here that the commentaries ask. At the end of the day, we learned this in the Gemara. If I sell you a table, and there's a market price on the table, and I cheat you, remember we learned this? Oh no, I cheat you for more than a sixth of the price. So what's the halacha? The sale is void. There's a market price on tables. Tables cost $200. I sell you a table for $400. That means I went way over 1/6 of the value of the table. Then the whole deal is voided. You could come back and say, "Hey, you cheated me." But that's only in a society where there's a market price. We don't live in a society with market price anymore because everybody does their own thing. But in the old days, you had a basic market and there was the market price, and if you were cheated, you could go back on the deal. So Yaakov sells Esau the Bechorah for lentils. Now, how could he sell Bechorah? I mean, Esau could come back later and say, "Hey, it's worth a lot more than lentils." That's the question. So I saw one of the commentators says like this. There was once this Jew. The Jew needed 500 rubles to marry off his daughter, and so he goes to the Hasidic Rebbe. And the Hasidic Rebbe says, "Well, Rebbe, I'm desperate. I need 500 rubles. What am I going to do?" He says, "Well, I want you here. I'm giving you a ruble. And with this ruble, buy the first product that's offered to you. Buy it with this ruble." So the Jew says, "Okay." And he goes to this little, he's hungry, he's on his way home. He stops off at this roadside inn. And there are a bunch of guys sitting there, they're drinking, they're having got a bunch of rich guys. And they see this guy walking, they start laughing at him. And they said to this guy, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Well, I'm looking for a business deal." "Oh yeah, what are you looking for?" "I want to buy something for a ruble." So some guy laughs, he goes, "Yeah, a ruble? What can you get for a ruble? I'll sell you my portion in the world to come for a ruble." Jew says, "Deal." Just as he starts laughing, he tells the guy, "Look at this guy, he's going to buy my portion." He said, "Give me the ruble." He says, "Good. Give me a contract." He writes on a contract, I Yankel, sell my portion in the world to come to barrel for a ruble. And he's laughing, and he takes the contract. He bought this guy's Olam Haba. So in the meantime, Yankel goes home, and he tells his wife, "I got to tell you the funniest story. Funniest story happened to me today. I was in the what do you call it? At the inn. We're having a meal. This Jew comes in to buy for. I sold him my Olam Haba for a ruble." She said, "You did what?" He says, "I sold him my portion in the world to come for a ruble." He says, "Well, get out of my house." "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm not living with a man who has no portion in the world to come." So it was just a joke. I joke, schmoke. I'm not interested in living. He says, okay, go buy it back from him. So he goes back to the Jew. He says, "Sell me back my world to come, my Olam Haba." My wife is upset. He says, "Listen, the Rebbe told me to buy it. He didn't tell me to sell it. I can't do anything without the Rebbe." So they go back to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe says, "What do you want?" He says, I sold it to them. I got it back." He says, "Okay, pay him 500 rubles. You can buy it back." He said, 500 rubles? I bought it for a ruble. Well, he sold it for a ruble. What's going on over here? You can't do it. You're cheating me. He says, "No, I'm not." He says, "Yesterday, you sold it to him. And to you, it was only worth a ruble. That's a full sale. That's all it was worth to you. Today, it went up to 500. That's the value. Now pay him the 500 rubles. So Esau comes along, and Esau says to Yaakov, hey, what's going on over here? You sold it to me for lentils." "Yeah, that's what you said it was worth. And I can prove it to you, because it says, Vayivez Esau v'sabachor." You were laughing at it. You didn't want anything to do with it. And therefore, you can't cry foul, especially since Yaakov loaded him up with bread first. Yeah, go ahead.
If he was satisfied with bread, why did he then agree to sell it for the lentils?
What's that?
If he was satisfied satisfied by the bread. Why did he agree to sell it for this?
I guess he was hungry. He didn't want, I'll take anything for my Bechorah. You know, sometimes you get a...
Satisfied from the bread.
Apparently he wasn't satiated. He was, that's always a starter. You know, when you start eating a meal, you have some bread and you're good to go, but I'm not giving up the chicken for the bread. You know, bread is just a starter. You know, you have a piece of...
Was that he was starving hungry.
You're right, but I'm right. Somebody once pulled that line on me. In other words, the Torah is telling you that Esau, the bread was the starter. He got you to a point, and when you sit down to eat a meal and you have a couple of pieces of bread, are you done? You're not going to eat the food now? Everywhere, we all eat. We have a couple of pieces, or you wash, you have a piece of bread, and then you eat your meal. So that's what he did. But once I have the bread, I'm no longer in that scratchy tiger mood. You know, I've already calmed down. Correct. So now that's the whole point. Esau says it's not worth anything to me. I'll sell it for lentils even if I'm not starving. That's exactly the point. Yeah.
Wasn't he going to give him food anyways?
Who? Why should I give him food? No, you got your own food. Wait, your brother comes in and tells you, hey, get me some food. What would you say to your brother? No, go cook your own food. I've said that to my brother. What, just guy making food? I'm making it for myself. You want some? Go get it yourself. What do you want? I got to make you your slave. So Yaakov said, okay. So Esau, he sells Esau the Bechorah. Okay. Now, the next section here, we may come back to tomorrow, is where Yitzchak goes down. But let's go on. Because we get to, this is with the Yitzchak in the wells. Now turn to page 132. Last word. Vayihi ki zakein Yitzchak. Yitzchak got old. Vatichena einav meros. His eyes were dimmed. By the way, what would your reaction be if an Arab walked up to you holding a Sefer Torah, and he would say to you, or you saw an Arab take a Sefer Torah. He's got a Sefer Torah, which he clearly got from a shul on loan. Right? Happened to those Arabs say, would you have any hesitation resorting to any sort of trickery that you possibly can in order to get it back from him? You would hesitate to get it back? No, you wouldn't hesitate. So Esau has got the birthright, and he's gonna disgrace it. Do you have any problem resorting to trick? Yaakov's entitled to do anything he can to get that birthright out of it because he's going to disgrace it. So there is absolutely no criticism of Yaakov Avinu for what he resorts to. There's a story. A guy walked into a guy in New York, a Puerto Rican came up to a Jewish guy, and he said to him, he walks into this Judaica shop, and he said, I got these tefillin. He has a pair of tefillin. He says, will you buy it from me? Goes into the Judaica shop. He says, I've got this pair, which he obviously purloined from somebody. And he says, I got this pair of tefillin. Will you buy it from me? So the proprietor is no fool. He says, well, let me see if they work. So he takes he puts the tefillin on his arm. Right? He puts it on. Then he takes the second pair, puts it on his head. Then he looks in the bag and says, hey, where's the one for the other arm? The guy, I don't know, man. This is what I found. I'll forget it. It's not a complete set. I'll give you $10 for it. That's it. He says, okay. So he gives him $10. He looks inside. There's a little label inside, Moish Cohen. He calls up, picks it up. Moish, I got your tefillin over here. Bring down. Yeah. Did he do anything wrong? They obviously, he's that's perfectly acceptable. I had a friend, by the way, who was on a plane. This is right after 9/11. He was on a plane, and he was sitting. Somehow he got up and he had a daven, so he was standing behind the cockpit. And he pulls out his tefillin. And just as he's winding the tefillin, the pilot happens to walk out. And he looks at this guy's winding himself up. He's rapping. He says, but, who are you? He says, oh, my name is Aaron. And he introduces himself while he's putting on his tefillin. He just shows them these are just what we call phylacteries. Nothing. Oh, they're factories? No, phylacteries. Yeah, nothing. Oh, okay. You're good. So tefillin, you have a lot of fun with tefillin. By the way, if you ever daven in an airport, that's also one of the joys of life. If you ever dive in an airport, you put on a tallis, you put on your tefillin, people try not to stare. You can tell they're like this. And especially if you wear a tallis, because they think, Batman arrived, and you're putting on this cape and you're walking on the street, you're in the airport. So you try not to call attention to yourself, but don't be self-conscious. Don't be self-conscious. There are a lot of weird people out there, number one. Number two, nobody's looking at anybody anymore because they're all busy like this. They're all on their phones. But, you don't go do it right in the middle of the airport. Go try Dovid, stand off to the side. I was once on Lufthansa. I was on a Lufthansa flight, me and 200 Germans. And at a certain point, that was a great flight. And at a certain point, I survived it. And at a certain point, I said to the what do they call them now? You're not allowed to call her a stewardess. You get arrested. What's it called? Flight attendant. Chas shalom. Yeah, flight attendant. I go, to call a stewardess. That's the biggest. You go to jail. You shoot up a school, then you're out in 6 weeks. You call somebody a flight attendant. So I said to the stewardess, to the flight attendant, is it okay if I pray? She said, yeah. So I got up and I was in a kind of a, read 'em and weep, boys type of mood. I didn't do any, I was standing on the side. I had no compunctions whatsoever putting on my tallis and my tefillin right in front of 200 Germans on the plane. I was kind of proud of myself. And I said to her, is it okay if I pray? She said to me, well, I'm a Muslim. I like when people pray on the plane. So the Jew and the Muslim were having a conversation in front of 200 Germans. And you put on the towels, and people are just looking at you. They're just like, and I'm just looking at Danke schön. Danke, enjoyed every minute. But you don't have to be self-conscious. Just move off to the side. But they will be staring at you. Now, the Torah says over here, Yitzchak is getting older and he's blind. How did he get blind? There's a very strange medrash here. I don't know. I don't understand exactly what it means. But Yitzchak's eyes dimmed because when he was put on the altar, you've heard this medrash, he was put on the altar, the angels in heaven were crying, and their tears went into Yitzchak's eyes. It's a pretty good shot from that distance, but the tears went into his eyes, and the salt of the tears black. That's what the medrash says. I don't know what it means exactly. It could be that, I'm assuming, I don't have a source for this, I'm just assuming it means that the entire scenario is so gut-wrenching of a father who's about to shecht his son, that it's telling you even the angels in heaven were crying. Symbolic, angels don't have emotions. But even the angels in heaven were crying. That's how powerful the event was of Avraham Avinu about to shecht Yitzchak. So Yitzchak is ready to die. He's concerned that he's within the range of death. And the Gemara says that when a person gets within 5 years of the death of one of his parents, so then he should start getting a little concerned. And so Yitzchak's mother died at 127. Yitzchak was 123 at this point. And once he hit that 5-year zone, he's worried that I might be dying soon. So he calls in Vayikra es Esau b'no agadol, Vayomer lov b'ni, my son, Vayomer lov hineni. Now let's stay with this. We're going to have to go pasuk by pasuk because it's loaded. Vayomer hinena zakanti lo yadati yom mosi. Third line, 134. I've gotten older. I don't know when I'm going to die. Ve'ata sanei kelecha sanach kelecha talyecha v'kashdecha. Take your bow and arrow, your knife. V'tzei hasada, go out to the field. V'tzuda litzayid, hunt. V'aseli matamim kasher ahavti. Bring me the food that I like. Ve'havia li ve'ochela, and then I will eat. Ba'avur tevarechecha nafshi b'terem amus. Then I'll bless you before I die. Now the first question, there are two questions here. First question is, why does he need him to go out and hunt? They've got plenty of livestock. They've got sheep, they've got goats, they got calves, and cows. Why does he need him to go out and hunt? Why should he go out and hunt the food? So it's interesting, the Mefarshim say that the Gemara says, even if you own livestock, you should hunt for more, not to get into the habit of eating meat. It's too easy to consume what you've got. We're talking today about addictions. Meat can become an addiction too. You have to have your beef, and that you get used to it. And in order to maintain self-control, it's too easy just to go over to the barn and grab a cow and shecht it. So better out to go out and hunt. Go hunt something for me, because hunting takes a little bit more in order to get a hold of the meat that you want to eat. Number one. Number two, why before he dies? What is the idea of giving a bracha before a person dies? So one of the ideas, and we find this in other places. When did Yaakov? Why not give the bracha all along? Give the bracha when you're nice and young. Why are you waiting till before you die? Why did Yaakov Avinu? It says he blessed the tribes right before he died. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu bless the Jewish people right before he died? Why is it right before? Give him a bracha. What's the problem? Give him a bracha. Give him a bracha when you're younger. Why are you giving? And by the way, the blessing from Yitzchak Avinu, obviously, is a major event because this is a blessing for the entire existence of what's going to happen in this as history unfolds. And you see that there's going to be there's going to be some sort of an attempt, a successful attempt, to take away this bracha from Esau, who usually intends to give the bracha. Why? What's going on here? The answer is that as a person gets closer to death, their connection to this world is loosened. The neshama is getting closer to the source up there, which means that the blessing is coming from a greater level of potency, which we spoke about yesterday, why Rivka didn't tell Yitzchak, and why they resort to a deception, which we have to understand what this deception is. But why didn't Rivka tell Yitzchak that Esau is really no good? Because that's going to reduce Yitzchak's level of joy, of simcha, which also affects the potency of the bracha. So the whole thing is all fitting together over here, that Yitzchak, Rivka wants that this bracha should get to Yaakov Avinu with the greatest potency. And that's why it's important that Yitzchak does not know that there's a switch taking place. So Esau goes out to the field to hunt. And then look what Rivka says like this, Pasuk Vav. Now, picture yourself, you're Yaakov Avinu. V'Rivka amra el Yaakov ben Lemor, hine shamati es avicha medaber el Esau v'chichlar. Listen, I heard your father speaking to Esau. And he told him to go out and hunt, so they give him a bracha. 2 lines later. Ve'ata beni shma bekoli. My son, obey me. La'asher ani mitzava oscha. I am commanding you. What's Rivka doing by commanding it? Making him responsible. We'll see in a second. Making her responsible. What else is she doing by commanding it? Esau has one merit. Esau does have one merit. There's one mitzvah that Esau was a master of, which was what, Hoodie? Honoring the father. Honoring him. He provided Yitzchak with food. Yaakov needs a merit that's going to be the counterbalance to Esau's merit. What's the merit for Yaakov? My son, obey me. Now you're talking about the man of truth. Yaakov is the Mida of Emes. How would you feel? It goes against your entire nature here. Your mother is saying, okay, obey me. Yaakov, at the moment he hears his wife going to say, now obey me, it's like, uh-oh, what's up now? And then Rivka says to him, Lechna el atzon v'kachli misham shnei gidayizim tovim, take 2 goats, ve'esa samatamim lavicha kasher ahev. Okay, so far not so hard. Okay, go to the barn and bring me 2 goats. Okay, mom, okay. Ve'vesa le'avicha, bring it to your father. Ve'achal ba'avur she'yivrecha lifnei moso. And you're going to bring it to your father. And Yaakov understands that you mean bring it to him without him knowing that it's me. He understands that because Vayomer Yaakov Arivka mo. Whoa, mom. Hein Esav achi ish sa'ir. He's hairy. The guy's covered with hair. Ve'anochi ish chalak. I'm smooth. Ula yemusheni avi. Maybe my father will touch me, feel me. V'ayisi be'enav kimisateya. And he'll see that I'm mocking him. Ve'avesi alai klolo bracha. And I'll end up with a curse and not a blessing. You don't want to get cursed by Yitzchak. Now, there are 2 words in Hebrew. There are 2 words in Hebrew for saying something might happen. There's ulai, which he says ulai, and there's pen. Now, if you're worried about something happening that you'd really rather it doesn't happen, in English we just say maybe and perhaps. But in Hebrew, one of them has, if you're hoping something will happen, maybe tomorrow we'll go to the amusement park. That means I'm hoping we'll go to the amusement park. If I had a word, I would say, oh, maybe tomorrow the electric bill is going to come. That means you're hoping it doesn't, but you're maybeing it. In Hebrew, there are 2 words. You could say, Maybe my father will touch me in the positive. Ulai. And you could say, pen. What if he touches? It's like saying, what if? What if my father touches? Now, it's very strange that Yaakov says to Rivka, if he's worried about this, why does he say, Ulai yimusheni avi? He should say, pen yimusheni avi. Like, what if my father touches me? So the Mefarshim say, you see, the Yaakov does not want to get involved in this. He's hoping Yitzchak will touch him so that he doesn't have to go and pull off this deception. And he says, in case he does, I'm going to end up with instead of a bracha, I'm going to get a klala. Now here's the strangest line of all. Vatomer lo imo, olai kilalos rabini, I'll take your curse. Ach shma b'koli v'lech kakli, go and take the goats and obey me. I understand, gentlemen. What do you mean, I'll take your curse? It was like, I called it. I call curse. Hey, you call it? Like, shotgun. Okay, so where we come from, there was tremendous respect for that sort of thing. If you called something, nobody would violate it. Shotgun? Nobody will ever violate shotgun. You're walking out to the group, 4 guys are walking out of the car, shotgun. Yeah, that's it. All the respect in the world. You're willing to drink, smoke, cheat people, but not shotgun. He called it. And my brother and I also, I took money out of his drawer, we hit each other. But if you ever called something, that was it. I remember I was once coming back, we were playing basketball, and we're in the car. Also, my brother says, I called the last 2 brownies. Like, oh man, I wanted those brownies. And I would never think of, it's 2. It's not like I'll get 1, he get 1. He can't have 1 brownie. You got 2 goes, 2's the package. I called the last 2 brownies. Like, oh, well, I was going to call it, And that's it. What do you mean you're calling a club? What does it mean you're calling the curse? I'll call the curse. He'll curse you, but I'll take it. Well, how can you? Who says you can take somebody else's curse? Where do you get that idea from? So take a look at the Targum Onkelos here. Pasuk Yud Gimel. Look across in the Targum Onkelos, the small block letters. Pasuk Yud Gimel, 3 lines from the top in the Targum Onkelos. If anybody sees it, if you find it, please show the person next to you. Do you see where that is in the Onkelos, gentlemen? Anybody got that? You don't see where it is. You see the Onkelos? You see the Chumash print? You see the Chumash? Pasuk, 3 lines from the top of the Chumash. Now go to your left. Yes, Va'ameres, in the Targum Onkelos. Anybody see? Do you see that where that is? Yeah. Sam, you got that? You got that over there? Moshe, you got that? Page 136, Targum Onkelos, 3 lines from the top. Va'ameres le'imei. His mother said to him, now remember, Targum Onkelos is the Aramaic translation, but it's not a literal translation, because included in the Targum Onkelos was the famous, it's a Tana, and included in the Targum is sometimes a layer of meaning, not just a direct translation. Look what she says. Va'ameres le'imei, his mother said to him, this is Aramaic, Alai is amar b'nevuah, I was told through prophecy, Dilo yesun levatay alachri, you are not going to get cursed. Oh, it's a prophecy. Do it. You could trust me. You're not that I'll take your curse. You're not going to get cursed. Biram, however, kabel mini vizel savli. Go do what I tell you to do. So what does Yaakov do? Yaakov goes and he brings the food. And then in Pasuk Tezvav, we have a very big question, which we're going to answer later. Vatikach Rivka es bigdei Esau b'na agodol achamudos asher ita. Rivka takes Esau's clothing, babais. Vatalbesh es Yaakov b'na kotan. She dresses Yaakov. Ve'es oros gedoye ha'izim, the goat skins. I mean, Esau must have been a hairy guy. If you take a goat skin and it's supposed to be like Esau, Hilbisha al yadav. She put on his hand, on his arms. She put goat skins. V'alchelkas tzavorov. That's the costume. That's the costume. Yeah, he's wearing Esau's clothing. He's got goat skins on his arms and goat skins on his neck, and that's what he's going to do and come to his father, and he's going to deceive his father. Listen, we're talking about Yitzchak Avinu. Okay, he's blind, but he's a very sharp man. And Yaakov's going to walk in now with goat skins as his costume. I mean, you see kids on Purim dressed up in costumes. They're a lot more elaborate than that. I mean, what if Yitzchak, what if he touches his arm and it slides off? Uh-oh, your arm just came off. That's going to be, how are you going to explain that? Or what if he fakes high and goes low, and instead of touching his neck, he touches him on the chest? There's no hair over that. But, it's not much of a costume, is it? It's not much when it comes to deceiving a Yitzchak Avinu. This is not much as far as costumes go. Okay. And then we're going to answer that probably tomorrow. Now Yaakov goes in, and here comes the conversation. Watch this. Pasuk Yud Ches. Vayavo el Aviv. Everybody see this? Pasuk Yud Ches. 10 lines from the top. He comes to his father. Vayomer Avi, my father. Notice how brief it is. You don't want him to hear your voice. You don't want to say as little as possible. Dad. Just like that. The little, very little voice identification there. Vayomer Hineni. Here I am. Mi ata bini. Who are you, my son? Isn't that a strange question? Isn't that a strange question? Well, who should it be? Who should it be? Well, Yitzchak, what was the last thing Yitzchak did? He sent out Esau to go hunting. And now he's coming back with food. And Yaakov comes in, and he says, who are you? Why are you asking who he is? You should know who he is. You sent him out to bring you food. Why are you asking? What does that tell you right off the bat? He at least suspects. Good, Mark. He at least suspects something is up. Now, if you suspected something is up, what would you do if you're Yitzchak? Well, let's get this clear before we take another step. At this point, Yitzchak understands if something is up and I'm not aware of it, it could be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has stepped into the picture. Hashem has gotten involved here. You know what? I'm going to step back and I'm going to let this play out however it's supposed to play out. Because I understand the very fact that he's asking the question is not a good thing. Why is he asking the question? That means there's I don't know what's happening here. Oh, okay. Let's see how this works out now. So he says, who are you, my son? Vayomer Yaakov el Aviv, Anochi Esau b'chorecha. Now watch this. Yaakov says, it is I, Esau, your firstborn. And Rashi says, Yaakov didn't lie. Because what did he say? He said, it is I. Esau is your firstborn. Anochi, Kama. Not Anochi Esau b'chorecha. Anochi, it is I. Esau is your firstborn. He didn't lie. Not bothered by that, gentlemen? Nothing about this bothers you?
Can I do that too?
Can you do that too? If there are times in life we have to, or we do.
Technically, he is the firstborn.
What?
Technically, he is the firstborn now.
Okay, but something else should bother you. You're right, but something else should bother you.
How do you not pick up on it?
How do you not pick up on it? So he said he is already suspecting something. He says, it is I. Esau is your firstborn. Meaning he said it as Anochi Esau, as I, Esau, your firstborn. So, but technically he didn't lie.
His voice. Doesn't the father know his son's voice?
So we'll see what happens with the voice. The problem here is you're in the middle of you're trying to deceive the man. You put on a costume to deceive the man. You're going all through the whole thing is a deception. Oh, but I didn't lie. Does that strike you strange a little bit? But that you didn't do? Everything else you did do with a blind man, you're taking advantage of a blind man, but I didn't really lie. Nothing bothers you? The answer is, there are certain times in life that you are allowed to veer off of the truth. The Gemara says that if a guy's getting married, what are you supposed to say about the bride? And it's the last girl in the world, you wouldn't marry her if she was the last girl in the world. What are you supposed to say about the bride? Oh, what a great catch. What a wonderful collie you got. What a wonderful collie. I mean, the guy would not, wonderful girl. Why? It says, it's a machlokas Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai says, call it the way you see it. No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean, hi, Mazel Tov, she's hideous. That's not what Beis Shammai means. Beis Shammai means, if she's got a quality, say it, but don't make oh, you're engaged to her? Wow, I heard she's got great handwriting. Unbelievable handwriting, and she knows how to work a file cabinet like nobody's business. She's a wonderful girl. If you are a librarian, this is the girl for you. That's what Beis Shammai says. Beis Hillel says, wonderful girl, exceptional girl, unbelievable. Why? Because the guy who's marrying her obviously thinks so. Or he thinks that of her father's bank account. Well, one way or another, he thinks he's getting a good deal. If a guy buys a car, you say he got great car. Oh, nice car. And all you're thinking is, oh boy, did he get taken? Boy, did he overpay. But he thinks he got a good deal. Don't go ruin it for him. So you are allowed to veer off of the truth. But even when you do, minimize it as much as possible. Yaakov has to lie. You have to deceive. Anochi Esau bechorecha. Try to make a what do you call it? Okay, tomorrow we're going to finish this, and then we're going to answer that question of why such a flimsy costume.